and welcome to the Torras AI podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you Chris Bechtel, a seasoned marketing executive with over 20 years of experience in B2B SaaS. As the VP of Marketing at Interface.ai, Chris continues involved in marketing AI solutions. Chris has also mentored startups at Techstars and held key roles at Boost.ai and Inbenta, specializing in AI and NLP solutions. With a BI in cinema and communications from San Francisco State University, Chris combines strategic insights with hands-on execution. Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Jordy. Great to have me. Great to be here with you. Thanks for that excellent introduction.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you are, I think, kind of recently, you are taking over the responsibility of head of marketing at Interface.ai. So tell us what you do over there and what is the responsibility and what do you guys do at Interface.ai?
Great question. So, I've been in the conversational AI space now, I guess, for about 6 or 8 years, probably before even the whole, generative AI kind of became common. And most people now have a common knowledge and acceptance that chatbots work, and they're starting to see actual, real business value from chatbots. So Interface.ai has been around for 9 years, actually been leading the way in the conversational AI space, really in solving primary business problems in banking and fintech, primarily focused on credit unions and community banks and regional banks. And ultimately, the use case, as you know, Jordy, for AI in this particular world, and conversational, tends to be, support use cases, right? Customer support, automation, enabling banks and credit unions to be able to support their members, as credit unions call them, and banks customers, 24/7, 24 hours a day. And as we all know, in dealing with our banks, we have a lot of sort of needs for self-service, right? And that's what we've kind of seen technology has allowed us. When I started in the AI space, a lot of institutions would kind of say, hey, we value the personal human relationships. Our customers want to come into the branch. They like talking to us in person, and that's part of what makes us special as a credit union, right? Is having that relationship. But I think, and even maybe with COVID, we've started to see that people have started to actually become comfortable and prefer, for certain interactions, a digital experience that's faster, it works, and it's automated. And so that's ultimately what I'm doing, is helping to educate the market on what are the right solutions as well, right? That's probably one of the things you've seen. There's so many solutions out there. How do you know which one to pick?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have such an extensive experience with AI and NLP, right? Natural language processing, as I said, right? Companies like
Yeah.
Boost and Inbenta and many more. So I don't know about you, but I have that impression. I mean, I remember, I'm old enough to remember using Google for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, look at this. Instead of using Alta Vista, there's this new cool thing called Google. What a strange name. Let me check. And when I started using, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That actually finding what I'm looking for. So I had this moment that I never had again until I tried ChatGPT for the first time. And I say, geez, these guys really cracked the code, right? And all the large language models and generative AI and everything changed overnight. Of course, it's the result of many works that took decades, right? But ChatGPT just exploded, literally, right? So how do you think, with your experience, right, with all these NLP companies, what is going on? How the landscape has changed? There are the old companies, the new startups. How is this large language models changing the overall industry?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think that, it's interesting. I've seen some conversations around, and some of the newer generative startups are trying to message around sort of V1.0, the first wave of AI, the NLP, natural language processing, as you know, had varying strategies to understand, a human's intent, right? And it's
Correct.
ultimately trying to understand language. And that's sort of Gen 1, as a lot of these new generative startups are saying, right? And that kind of worked okay. And as you know, the challenge with or at least the hard part in the NLP space is that, you as a customer, you have to tell the bot exactly what to say, right? So the bot is trained to kind of understand intent, but then we have to give it the answer, the humans. Now
Right.
with generative, because it's actually a language model for conversation, it's now creating the answers for us. Now, obviously, what we've seen, right, is there's still some issues and some concerns about hallucinations, and even within ChatGPT, it says at the bottom it can get things wrong, right?
Correct.
So that's the state we're in. I feel like we're in sort of Gen 2, right?
Yep.
And it's sort of an interesting place. And obviously, as we continue to improve its accuracy, but that's where I feel like we are. And now consumers feel comfortable talking to bots because they've had good experiences, but we're still in this space of it's mostly working, but not
Correct.
completely.
Correct. There have been cases of companies providing wrong information over their support call center and then having to go back and go through costly legal processes because information was wrong, right? And to try
Yeah.
to solve that, we've seen now companies using RAG, right? The
Yeah.
RAG, kind of trying to make sure the answers are correct. And agents, right, is the other thing. Like, oh, instead of one large language model, yes, let's use several large language models talking to each other, kind of to be more smart. But I love the way you describe this two wave, right? The wave one and the wave two, and the wave two is very strong. There are a lot of the startups going out there and trying to get their fair share of the market. And you have been helping companies with your growth engines lab. So a question for our audience, right? Many of them are entrepreneurs. What would be your advice or for startups in this generative AI space? What would you tell the founders that they should do? That's got some free advice for them.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think the thing that I've learned in 20 plus years and like mentoring like literally over 500 founders going through the whole process is I find it's all about the customer and the market. And most people don't segment quite deeply enough. And I think typically, because today it's not like you're going to go from 0 to 1, meaning like invent a brand new product in a whole new category, like in Peter Thiel's book. Like that's like what you said in Google. That went from 0 to 1. But most companies today are going to be iterative, meaning they're going to iterate on an existing problem, but just do it in a better way. But I think the most important thing is to zero in on a niche, a small underserved problem. So even at Interface.ai, my current company, we're focused very specifically, we're vertically focused as a SaaS and specialized AI for very specific use cases with expertise in banking and credit unions. And we're training our language model to understand that specific use case. So I would say to most founders out there, dig deeper than maybe you're initially thinking. And it's almost like, especially as you move forward in pitching to VCs, right? A lot of VCs kind of want to see a big total addressable market. So there's on the one hand, you're thinking, I need to say how big my market is. But actually, when you're going to market and building a product, it's almost better to find a very small section of that total addressable market that is underserved. That's also, I use the process to figure out your ICP. Who is your ideal customer profile? And what
Mhm.
means in the first stage of going to market, what does that ICP look like? And it might be customers that are not served well, but they're also willing to work with you so that you can truly understand how to solve their problem better than the others out there. And if you can get a few customers that you really figure out how to solve their problem better than others, then you really can have a leg up. And again, depending on the stage of your business, right? If you're trying to raise funding in the early days, you might need a little traction. And that small niche can help you carve out some real traction that then proves that there is that bigger opportunity. But I think it's hard for a lot of founders. They get that message, oh, I have to have a big total addressable market, and then they get lost,
That's
right?
right. You are totally right. And when we were working together, right, in our past initiatives, I think that's something that you insisted, right? It's like, hey, take into account that you need to map out your customer and what you are, the problem that you are solving, and define a very specific solution, right? So we were kind of hunting
Yes.
down what can we tell to the market. Is like, okay, that we are building is specific for this use case, for this industry. And now with of course generative AI, everyone can do that, right? So
Yeah.
for all these entrepreneurs out there that are using, I don't know, the API of OpenAI, instead of trying to solve the world that's going to be complicated, try to find one problem for one sector, right? I believe that's a great advice.
Yeah, because as you've seen, it's like interesting, right? It used to be with technology, you could build a differentiated moat because there was a barrier to entry. It took a certain level of skill, knowledge, and cost to build that product, right? But now it's so easy, you can kind of build a wrapper, leverage OpenAI's API, and now you have an AI tool, right? And
Exactly.
so how do you differentiate, because you can't really differentiate based on product per se. So I think it's about probably, really finding the niche and that specialized. And that's so at Interface, because a lot of that, there's that choice of like, is it you just use broad AI that kind of is generalized, or are you better off picking a vendor, that is specialized in your particular area and has trained a model and knows specific business processes that you need to automate. And I think that's what we try to do too, Jordy, right? Is pre-package things so it makes it easy, right?
Exactly. That's try to package these things in a way that is not about being easy to sell, it's about being easy to buy. So you have to
Yeah.
make it easy for your customers to buy. And having a laser focus on these particular solutions, use case, and verticals is what allows you to build these solutions. And that's an exciting time. I mean, it's of course a very competitive market, right?
Yes.
As you
Yes.
said, but at the same time, a place where the limit is the sky. I mean, it's really, that's so many things that can be done with all this generative AI.
Yeah.
So
And yeah.
yeah,
And I think
please.
it's about solving the boring problems in a way, right? Like there's a lot of opportunity in solving just some very boring problems that have been nagging at us for quite a while. And think that that's where maybe the opportunities are, is those hidden little boring problems that just have been sitting there that cause cost and productivity issues and other things. And that's where I think we'll see the movement.
I love it. And you hit my word. I believe AI is here to get rid of the boring stuff, right? And there's so many boring and annoying things that we do every day at work that just nobody thought that could be solved. And now it can be solved with AI, and generative AI is about finding that particular use case, applying it, and making a purchasable solution, right? So that's amazing. So you also are leading this group, right? The Growth Engine Labs. I love this name. I think you nailed it here with this name. So maybe you could share with our audience some examples, specific examples of use cases that you have helped companies solving and helping them grow with your lab.
Yeah, a great question. So ultimately, kind of Growth Engine Labs came out of my work in growing startups and all of the years, and I co-founded a startup myself about 10 years ago and exited a SaaS. And since then, I do a lot of growth consulting, and then I kind of get pulled in full time into these roles. And but Growth Engine Labs has really, again, come out of, there's a lot of B2B playbooks, right? And so what I've developed out of Growth Engine Labs is what I call a framework, what I call GEM, the Growth Engine Method. And essentially, it's a framework that ultimately everything starts with the customer. Like, and that's, what we were talking about a minute ago. Like, what marketing activities do you do? What marketing messages? What channels do you use? It all really starts with the customer, right? Because depending on who they are, right, you're going to use different channels to try and reach them. And so ultimately, it's really a scientific approach. It's trying to, what I've seen, most of the issues people have with growth and marketing, it tends to be because often, founders come from a more technical background, like such as yourself, right? You built a product and that customers need and like, but marketing is just something that's not necessarily in the DNA. And so a lot of his people need a framework. And I find a lot of times what happens in marketing or growth is that things are more ad hoc. It's not systematic, right? And most of the successful startups that we've seen that have become unicorns, and one of the big recipes for their success is what we call high tempo testing, was just the fact that they literally invested in growth teams that the more experiments they did, the more successful they were. And so ultimately, the way I look at things is ultimately what's our goal? Meaning, okay, how many customers do we need? What revenue is our target? And therefore, then trying to hypothesize first on what market segment are we in, which problems there, then which ICPs, the actual people involved, and what criteria. So then again, we can constantly prioritize. Because the thing is, I find that markets are not fixed. They're dynamic, meaning the macroeconomic forces last year are different than they are this year. And so the competitors might be different this year than they were last year. So I think a lot of times people forget, they set a go-to-market plan thinking and based on what happened last year. But then the market changes. We've even seen, right, since COVID, how there was a lot of investments. Interest rates in the US were low at one time. There was a lot of investment. Since then, interest rates have risen. There's the macroeconomic forces have changed. So it's the idea of constantly prioritizing. Are we in the right market? Are these the right ICPs for us? Then it's like, what's the right hook, the message, which ultimately leads to the problem. I, as a buyer, I have a job that needs to be done. And unless I can see clearly that you can help me with the job that I have, that I need to do, potentially, if I can't understand that, I'm not going to be able to engage with you. So it's this constant process of, are we in the right market? Are we targeting the right people? Is the right messages and hooks? And then the right set of channels, like the go-to-market channels. And I think, to answer your question directly, the most specific, effective programs for growth I've seen, truthfully, have been a mix of really high quality content because people need to be able to build trust and credibility with you. And in the absence of in-person, which I think is also increasing, that's why the digital experience needs to be content. So podcasts like this really work. High quality articles on LinkedIn, the building trust as a thought leader through these kinds of content is really creates that type of, and also there's just such a volume of noise. Like if we only create one blog post a quarter, it's not enough, right? So we've got to constantly repeat that message.
Correct. And I talked to, let's say, classic marketing folks, right? So they say, let's make a marketing plan. Let's define your persona and your ideal customer. And then when it's set, it's like, okay, it's done. And now for the next 5 years, that's what we're going to do. But that doesn't work anymore. Probably it hasn't worked for a long time. And you, with this growth engine labs, you say, hey, that's not a one-time definition. It's a process that needs to be continuously reviewed. And to make things more interesting, I guess that the product folks love you because you are changing all the time, but just I guess making them aware that the world is continuously changing. So the company needs to be continuously being agile enough for these products to adapt. That's fascinating.
Exactly. And and you see that as you know, like when you co-build with customers, then you start to build products that are sticky and that really deliver on the results. Um, and let's also face it that most people hate the B2B marketing playbook, right? As a buyer, like it's like the common thing. Okay, I go to a website, I put in my email, now I'm going to get bombarded by emails and phone calls. When the fact is, in most markets, like only 3% of buyers are in market at any one time. That
Hmm.
means, like in your total addressable market, 97% of those people are in their mind, they're not searching for a solution, right? And
They're
yet,
not
if they go to your website and they watch a video and give you their email, now sales is bombarding them for a meeting, right? When
right.
they're not in market, you know?
I've been there and done that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what can we do is just be top of mind, continuously build that trust and credibility. So when I am in market, oh yes, I remember that company. They are really thinking, they're solving problems. That's who I want to
Amazing.
talk to, right?
Amazing. That's amazing. All right, since let's say November 22, right? That the day ChatGPT came to life and got 1 million visitors or users in just a matter of hours.
Yeah.
The world has changed totally. But what do you think is now ahead? What do you think is
Hmm.
the future of AI, and where are we going with all that?
It's a great question. I think two things come up for me. Kind of one, back to your Google example, right? It's like I think some of the existing paradigms that we've come used to are going to be disrupted, meaning the entire user interface of the internet in a way is broken, right? Now, if you look at perplexity.ai, which is, I would encourage everyone to sign up for, you can get alerts. It creates on any search, it's like your own encyclopedia, right? With
Right.
multiple sources. So I think the way in which, like you were saying, wow, Google was revolutionary at the time, but now I think the way you're going to use the internet from a user experience could fundamentally change. So instead of going to a browser and clicking and searching and scrolling, we're going to interact with an AI agent where we're going to have a conversational experience with the content, right? And even on the banking side at Interface.ai, we're working on the entire ability to converse. It's your own assistant, your banking assistant that is conversational. So the entire interface that you are looking at is completely different than because the website experience is broken, I think. So even search will change because more and more of us now, so that's the second thing is agents, right? I believe that at some point we will all have our own personal agent, AI agent that does things for us. And that, like you said before, might interact with other agents, right? And there's a whole bunch of emerging startups that there was an article in TechCrunch. There's a couple of them. A big one that just kind of came out this week out of stealth called
Hmm.
Emergence.ai. And they're working on a lot of, AI agents. Many of them, they're agents that are being able to use desktop applications.
Mhm.
So they can automate and do a lot of things that maybe we can't do as a human. So maybe I have a team of AI agents that can start to do things for me that would take maybe even updating a CRM or other things like that. An AI agent could now do it on my behalf. So I think I feel like those are the two big things that are coming, although, and obviously in the whole product development and coding, AI agents as co-pilots, there is Devin, which was created out of Cognition Labs, which is a Seattle-based startup. They have Devin, which is one of the most advanced coding agents out there. Super impressive. Although I think recently its benchmark on GitHub and its ability to solve some problems only passed like at a 14%. So there's a little bit of a gap in where
Still,
this
right?
is going.
For small snippets and these kind of things, generative AI coding is great. Now to tackle more big problems, still not there, but
Still
getting
not
there.
there. Now, one of these guys said, oh, he built the entire code base of WordPress, its product in a matter of hours, right?
Wow, wow,
Now, maybe there are a lot of bugs in it. We don't know, right?
right.
Um, but that seems to be where things are going. So I feel like, I mean, I'm super interested in the AI agent component, and in marketing has obviously been disrupted heavily, right? With content production. Now we have Runway ML, which is one of those new, like Sora was come out, which is the generative video.
Hmm.
Runway ML is extremely uh impressive. They've come out. I don't think it's available. Their version 3 yet publicly, but some of the things I've been seeing are super advanced. You can tune. I went to film school, as you mentioned. Uh,
Yes,
I quickly became an entrepreneur. I funded a production company right out of that. So, but I've been around long enough that we used to shoot things on film, and now everything is digital. And now the ability for AI to do these things is incredible.
absolutely. And I think you're now that you think about the experience on the internet, right? That is experience that is broken. You are absolutely right. It's like, hey, now is super easy to, let's say, I don't know, let's buy flight tickets, right? Okay, I have to go to this place where they're going to show me different websites. Then I go to the website. They're going to ask me for creating an account and then enter my data and the date and my passport. And it's gonna, I don't know if you like doing these things, but I hate it so much. It's going to
It's
take
oh
half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. Oh, then you have to pay. Then the credit card
yeah,
has not been accepted. You go back. Oh, you have to enter the security code again. And it's so annoying because it brings absolutely nothing. It's 45 minutes of your life that is gone forever and it's not going
yeah.
to come back. So, and that's for the public internet. But now I'm starting to wonder within companies, let's say the CRM, right? How much time very talented sales folks are forced to spend in front of a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse, entering data in the CRM to be compliant with company policies, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
When, hey, agent, you've been there, you've been in this call, you know who I was talking to, make a summary, put in the CRM, and let me do my job, right? So
Yeah.
if these large language models or this AI is able to learn, and it will, to use the applications that we are using now, it's going to be the big change. We're going to stop using just our mouse, keyboard, and just have conversations with our and get the job done.
I think so. I really do. It's interesting. I was just trying to look up. There was on that note, it was another company that just came out of stealth that was funded. It was a couple of ex HubSpot guys that are
Mm-hmm.
building a CRM, AI powered CRM, doing exactly kind of what you're saying. Because as you know, leading a GTM team in the past where most people don't update Salesforce. It's
Nope.
the bane of most salespeople's existence. But as leaders that are tracking revenue and activity, we need that data in there and we need it to be accurate, right?
Correct.
Um, but it doesn't get updated half the time. And it's also because, so I think that, yeah, there's going to be tools that are like have native AI embedded in it to do it. But as you said, I'm seeing a lot because there's a lot of those legacy systems, especially in certain industries like banking, where they have some core back end platforms that are
Right.
harder and take longer to upgrade,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so now I'm seeing that that's why these co-pilots are there. And there's another company I don't I'll have to share so you can share it in the notes, that is a Silicon Valley company that's come out with AI agents for SaaS platforms. So it
Huh.
appears what they're trying to do is if you've got an existing SaaS platform, some of it is usage and adoption of the SaaS platform. And you know how there's some, but imagine if you had a co-pilot
Yep.
that could then in a much more advanced way help you maximize your usage of that platform and automate a number of the things. So it's like I'm seeing, I think again, maybe this is wave two, or maybe this is the beginning of wave three of the agents,
That's right.
where the agents are there to kind of basically as a band-aid for legacy products.
Right. And quite back, quite ago, there was this RPA, the robotic, what was that? Robotic.
Robotic process automation. Yeah.
Exactly. What was that? The idea was, hey, I have these legacy applications, and then I put a software on top of that that operates, and there was a UI path and all this kind.
Yes,
It was a big Silicon Valley password
exactly.
then lost to the history, right? But I believe it's gonna come. It's not gonna be called RPA, but now is the opportunity to actually make it happen and make it work because
Yeah.
you can have AI using all these applications for you. You can call it agents, whatever you want to call it, and take away from you the most boring and annoying part of this user experience. And not to
Yeah.
talk about banners and cookie policies. And oh man,
Oh my God. Exactly. Exactly. And that's where I see in all of these areas, back to what I was saying, is specialized AI, right? And Y Combinator's obviously been funding a lot of AI startups. So if you look at their last cohort, and a number of them are all solving some interesting little niche problems. One of them was in the world of BDRs or SDR, sales development, which
yeah,
is basically cold outbound sales, right? But they're kind of trying to automate some of the manual processes that you have as a sales rep, copying and pasting or content. And so again, it's sort of a band-aid to try and um, fix some of the legacy issues. So it'll be interesting. I feel like that we're going to eventually make the leap where we'll replace those legacy systems, and then AI, I think, will be embedded. And then, yeah, like our user experience will be a conversation.
that's
Where do
right.
you want to travel today, Jordy? How many people? Who's going? When would you like to go?
Exactly.
Okay, I'll go do this for you.
Yeah, and I'll go with my wife and my daughter, and the AI will know who I'm talking about, and no need to re-enter passport numbers and suffix last names and all that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And what I wonder about, it's what I've thought about, is there's those personal devices, because I think the other thing, it's about the data, right?
Right.
Because I feel like for consumers to fully adopt, for you and I to have our own personal AI assistant, that we give it all of our info, right? I feel like there's gonna be a need to almost have that localized data stored, or
Correct.
somehow I need my own isolated cloud where my data is just me. I'm not sharing it with OpenAI or
Right.
Google or anyone else. I feel like that's the next gap. And there's a few devices and even our Macs, the chip, because there are the chips in the devices are capable, right?
Correct. Of
But
certain
that,
small scale GPU, right? So that's going to happen.
yeah,
And we know Siri, right? It's been out there for some time, but the
yeah,
Siri that we're going to Siri and all the other personal assistants that we're going to see in the future that have access to these large language models, localized, secure with my data, and super smart and connected, and being able to use my applications, that's gonna totally change the experience. I completely agree.
yeah, I
Chris, I
think
know
so.
that
So
you
it'll be
are,
interesting,
yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be very, very interesting. Chris, I know you are very busy, and I wanna be respectful for your time as well as thank you so much for being with us today. It's been great.
Thank you
And
for having
for
me. Appreciate it. Great to talk to
absolutely,
you.
And for the last question, Chris, I forgot. For everybody
Yes,
interested in
yes.
knowing more about you and get in touch with you, would LinkedIn be the best platform?
Yep, LinkedIn's a great place to connect with me. Absolutely. Try and publish content, interact with people. You can also visit my website at growthenginelabs.com.
Awesome,
Access some of my framework there. Be
awesome.
happy to. I love giving back. So if there's any founders out there that have questions, that I find the founder dilemma is one of those where you have too many ideas and you don't know what to do next. So often it's very helpful to have somebody to kind of figure out, okay, what do I do next? Which idea
Oh,
do I pick? Right.
lovely, lovely. That's great. All right, for everybody, they heard growthenginelabs.com. There's going to be a link in the description. You can find Chris Bechtel on LinkedIn as well, with a lot of great ideas and knowledge. And get ready for the next podcast. We have very interesting people coming to our podcast next. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.